Hello, everybody. This is Dr. Dan Carvalicchio welcoming you to another segment of MD Life segment. I am here with my co-host, Mandy Ross. Mandy, how are you today? What's going on in your world?
I am, as you can see, surrounded by greenery just for y'all to get a bit of some freshness. And I feel like I'm radiating sunshine vibes today. So I thought I'll bring the earthiness and the sunshine to y'all.
I like that. That's excellent. So, Mandy, catalyst for positive change, international TV and media personality, speaker, writer, model, mindset, and manifestation coach. She is my co-host here on MD Life segment, and we have another great segment here. We had a good time the last segment, right?
We were on a rocking roll all about confidence, having unshakable confidence.
That's
really
right.
Honing in on what makes you special and like really just taking ownership in your own life and how to become essentially a master creator of anything you desire.
And I think that's great. And I think this is important. And we're going to build upon that now. And we're going to talk about manifesting faster. We're in an era right now, and we're in a generation where, you know, it's taking a long time. People are a little confused. People are off right now. And if we can hone them down and get them to do what they want to do faster, areas of love, relationships, career, finances, health, their body, okay? And, you know, coming out of this pandemic, people have gained weight. People have lost their jobs. They need to get moving. They need to get rocking, because if they don't, they still have the bills coming in. So this is an important topic, and I'm ready to go with this. So what are your thoughts, Mandy? What are your initial thoughts on this?
So I think it's important to understand when we talk about manifesting, like, what does that even mean? Let's pull it back to the bare basics, right? And I like to actually use the KISS method, which, if you're not familiar with, it does usually stand for it usually stands for keep it simple something, but I like to just say keep it simple, sweetie. I like my version. Keep it simple.
I'd say keep it simple, smarty. So
there you go. We have our own. I think that's a reflection of probably us too, like, you know, our little ways of making things our own. But that speaks to what we're going to dive into later in this episode, which is also being your authentic self, right? I think it's important to really, like in anything in life, it's important, even with manifesting, you have to go about it in a way that you really do create it to be your own individual process. And again, going back to the ownership piece, it's like, I like to keep things really simple, and even the process of acquiring or attracting what you want, again, I will always go back to self-concept and it all stemming from you within. Mm-hmm. So when it comes to manifesting, how we can apply this is, you know, everything starts with your thoughts, right? Mm-hmm. Even before that, we can say it starts with your subconscious. The subconscious is what basically harbors anything that is essentially we've gone through or that's happened in our life. Mm-hmm. And from there, you know, roughly 90% of what happens in our, you know, conscious reality mm-hmm. is predetermined by what's going on in our subconscious. That's why it's so critical and imperative to understand that, because then you realize why you make the decisions you make. You realize why you act the way you act, your behaviors, your thoughts. Everything that's going on around you, 90% of that is made up from within. So when we really focus on changing within, that is what ends up changing and shifting everything without. That's why it can be very frustrating as a non-conscious creator when you're trying to change everything externally and mm-hmm. you're not seeing any progress, because you're not addressing what you actually need to be addressing, which is internally, in order to result in the kind of lifestyle that you want to see. And yes, the areas especially of love and relationships, of health and body, and of career and finances are three main areas that a lot of people seem to have a lot of expectations. They have a lot of dreams and desires, but sometimes, more often than not, one or all of those areas, they're not seeing the kind of desired reality that they truly wish that they could be experiencing.
Right. what are some of the blocks that happen in that internal dialogue and from your experience that makes it where they can't manifest quicker? What are some of those blocks?
So a lot of, and I'll use both my own personal, journey of manifesting, and we're all, by the way, I always like to point out too, this, what we're talking about here, manifesting, we're all manifestors. Every thought that we have creates.
Mm-hmm.
And I've always said that, in all of our conversations, because it's really important to become aware of how powerful our thoughts are. So again, going back to, what are some of the common blocks? They usually are things typically that have happened to, and this is also with coaching clients, I've noticed the same patterns over years of coaching. It's like a lot of times it's things that have happened to us in our fundamental years, say those first 7 years of our life, where typically, generally speaking, it's something that has occurred between yourself and someone else, like those relationships, those connections that we've had that are really significant, whether it's a caretaker or someone else we've known, or just something in general has happened to us that has created somewhat of a trauma, right? And it doesn't just have to be bad. I mean, there's lots of things that are good that happen in our childhood as well. But when we're talking about blocks in particular, usually it's something that, quote unquote, is more so not serving us. So it's kind of more on, like, say, like the negative side of the spectrum.
Right,
so
sure.
It could be, yeah, exactly. So it could be, anything from someone making a comment about you, something, could be some form of abuse sometimes. It could be, an incident that happened. It could be whatever things that have imprinted themselves on you that usually are in the areas of not making you feel worthy, not making you feel enough, making you feel small, making you feel unloved, making you feel like you're not good enough, making you feel like you don't deserve to have the things that you just genuinely, truly desire. But it's like, and that's why it's so important to realize it stems from the subconscious, because you can get rid of a lot of frustration when you realize that. When you become a conscious creator, and this is one of the things that I wanted to touch on today, I think it's really important for me to just come out and say this. We're all born abundant. Abundance is our birthright.
Right.
And there are infinite possibilities that exist in the universe. Infinite. Literally, you are limitless. The reason why you do not see the abundance that you wish to see in every area of your life is simply because you have to look at it like this. When you're born, abundance is just plentiful. It's full. It's limitless, right? From the moment you're born, things start to happen, right? You go through experiences. You endure traumas. You have things come up in your reality that make these imprints. And the only thing that is stopping you from basically, think of yourself as this whole entity, and you're just this abundant fountain, we'll say, that's just overpouring with abundance. Over the years, things have started blocking and covering that abundance ability. So the true journey and process, and there's a famous quote too, I know you've heard it, but it's like, it's really about unlearning all of the things that we have learned throughout our life.
That we've learned, correct. I've heard that before. Right.
Exactly, to get back to that limitless, infinite, abundant state of being. So the blocks could be really anything that's negatively impacted you, to stopping you from getting the things that you truly deserve.
Right. So out of love, relationships, career, finances, health, and having a body, physical body, what is the most difficult from your experience for people to manifest? Which one takes the longest time?
I would say, typically speaking, it really, I'm gonna just be the devil's advocate and say this. It really does depend on an individual, but generally speaking, the I would say the highest, or like the most challenging for most people is going to be the relationships.
Right.
Because it's not always the case. There are lots of people who have challenges, especially with money and finances, and also with their health and body, like 100%, again, depending on what kind of limitations they're dealing with. But I'm going to say the top block, or the top challenge for, I don't want to intend that, but it's just, that's typically what even a lot of people start their manifesting, a conscious creating journey, like the reason behind it is because they're having issues with relationships. I think there is because of the element that there's someone else involved, sometimes that can be a block in itself, to be honest.
Right, because if you're not on the same page, then what happens is that you have other issues that you have to deal with, and it becomes convoluted. It could become more complicated, right?
Well, I think part of this journey is realizing, like, even in the areas of like, say, finances, everything is truly unfolding in your favor, but it usually does take like a transition stage from where you're at to where you're going to get to, or what you want or what you desire.
Right.
And it does require some sort of external, like,
right,
someone to make a move, right? Like you're not going to just go to the bank and have money sitting there. Like, it's going to have to be someone to at least give it to you from the bank, account or something. Like, there's these little things that are set up, or say the lottery, say the person that works at the convenience store who sells you that winning lottery ticket. Like, there's these kind of people that are involved, sometimes even behind the scenes, that are kind of all a part of this whole plan for you. And you have to take that into consideration. I think why relationships can be can feel, I don't want to say they can feel more challenging, is because you are dealing with someone else, and that person typically, especially when it comes to manifesting, we talked about manifesting an SP, like a specific person or romantic relationship, they're the most triggering for us versus money or health or body or career, right? It can typically be the most triggering, that kind of throws it in a sense, throws that energy in our face, reminding us about those blocks, those limiting beliefs that we dealt with from a past trauma that is unhealed.
Right, sure, 100%. And you want to stay focused, right, on what you want, the desire for what you want. And it's tough at times because you got circumstances that are preventing you from that manifestation. Tell me, what's the difference, and how do you get over that?
That's a great question. Thank you, Dan, for bringing this up.
Oh, you're welcome.
Current circumstances are something that trip a lot of people out, because, and I definitely have been there myself. It can be, again, I never intend that it is, but it can be challenging when you're in the midst. It's like when you're in the midst of the storm, we'll say, it can be hard to see the clearing, right? When you're in the middle of the bleep storm. The thing that you have to take into consideration, or I would highly suggest to be open-minded to, is that I'm sure there have been times for all of y'all watching either live or seeing this replay on my YouTube channel. The thing you have to take into consideration is there's always been times in your life where everything in life is a process, right? It's a journey. It's not, now the reason, and again, this episode's all about manifesting faster. The sooner you realize that no matter what you're seeing currently right in front of you, like right here, there is always that light at the end of the tunnel. There's always that desire. There's always that whatever it is you want to manifest or attract to you, you have to be able to look past what is right in front of you.
Right.
You just have to. It's unless you are able to do that, you're going to stay stuck in that current circumstance. What you focus on is what grows, right?
Absolutely.
There's that quote, where your mind goes, energy flows.
That's right.
And this is, I'm going to give you guys even a simple exercise you can do at home, whether you're watching live again or you're watching the YouTube video. Something as simple as, and I've done this so many times, that's honestly, guys, the only reason I even share this stuff partly is because, and then I believe in it so passionately, is because I've seen this work magic in my life so many times, whether it's small manifestations or like massive miraculous things that happen, they really are all the same. Manifesting a free cup of coffee, or having someone change their, tune towards you, or manifesting big lump sums of money or opportunities, it really is all the same. It's just, again, your belief around it's your belief about yourself, one. It's your belief around that thing. So let's say your belief around what relationships are like, the dynamic of relationships, let's say for a relationship. And then it's also your belief about that specific, say, person and how they feel towards you. If you can get over the beliefs that are not serving you, that is going to literally make you a magnet for attracting what you want so much faster. It's the fact that you're focusing on what you don't want or don't like that is perpetuating it in your life. It is.
That happens with so many different types of people. What you focus on is what you get in life, right? What's that saying? What you wish for, you get, right? So
totally.
If you're
be careful what you wish for. Like literally, I don't say this as a way like to warn, but honestly, guys, like the saying, be careful what you wish for, like it's not about wishing. First off, I'm not a huge fan of that word, but in essence, the whole point of
it's that focusing.
saying,
Yeah, it's what you're focusing.
It's all about what you focus on. And that's the thing, like, I know that y'all watching I know that you've gone through different journeys and processes in your life, and you have, I mean, we're manifesting all the time. So even if it's something as simple as, just having a quick thought, and then say, for example, you have a quick thought and someone calls you and you were hoping to hear from that person. This happens to me all the time. I know that before this call we were talking about it, but I recently celebrated a birthday, and I am like just vibing on some next level energy. Like, I know I'm an Energizer bunny, but now I feel like I'm even more unstoppable than my last orbit around the sun. And in part, it's because I've been able to shift within so dramatically that now everything is just coming to me with so much more flow and ease, and like it feels effortless at this point, because I'm I think in part it's because I'm so diligent at focusing on what I want, that it's like it does start to just become like a muscle, right? It becomes like second nature. It's just the way that I expect things to happen in my favor now.
And I think you said a very important word: shift, because you have to shift your focus. Because if you're being negative, you got to shift your focus to what your goals are, to what your desires are, so that you can manifest them.
Oh, absolutely, Dan. It's no different than training your body at the gym. At the beginning of being a monitor of your thoughts, at the beginning of working through the stuff that's within, that has been possibly harboring in your subconscious for years. I'm not telling y'all out there that this process is always easy. I'm not intending that it's hard for you, but I'm not going to sit here and say that there aren't times that I've had breakdowns. But again, it's a breakdown that has resulted in major breakthroughs. And I actually feel like one of my words in this new birth year is like breaking out, like breaking free, breaking out, breaking, free of anything that was holding me back before, because that stops, like, fear in itself, fear of so many things, but fear stops us from becoming the greatest versions of ourselves. And we've touched on this a little bit before in videos, whether it's fear of judgment, fear of not being loved, fear of not being accepted, fear of, also another big piece of this puzzle to ask yourself is, you might actually be having things that you might be good at manifesting things into your life, but when it comes and shows up, you might actually be fearful of that success in itself. So you really have to ask yourself, are you self-sabotaging? Because that can also be something that comes up.
I'm writing this down: fear of success, because there's so many things that you can do to sabotage yourself. It's kind of like, I remember reading a book. It's like, it gets hot, you can make some money, you want to be an entrepreneur, you're answering questions, you're solving problems. But then if your focus is lower than that, automatically the jets start cooling you and you don't even know, and you're sabotaging yourself doing that. And this is where the manifestation and what you said, another great word of what you said before was breakthrough. That's a great word. You broke
Oh yeah.
through for this year. And what happens if you can have that breakthrough, you won't do that self-sabotage. You break through that so that that doesn't manifest at any given times.
Exactly.
What are your thoughts on that?
So first off, I love that you use the metaphor of hot and cold, because in the manifesting community, I know y'all watching out there, here so often is like this hot and cold behavior. Typically it's referring to like an SP. So the specific person, if you're trying to manifest a relationship, or, you know, if you're trying to manifest a specific person who you're interested in, we'll say intimately or romantically, sometimes you'll experience things like hot and cold behavior. The reason why you're experiencing hot and cold behavior typically, and sorry, there's a little fly going around here. He just wanted to be a part of our segment, that's all.
They just want to be a part of the segment. We can let them in.
But that's the thing with hot and cold behavior, what's going on is just you're not fully showing up as the complete shifted version yet, which is what you're talking about. When you have that breakthrough, a lot of times you're still becoming that version of yourself who is unshakably confident, who is certain. Because the moment you truly decide to be that version of yourself, you're not going to be experiencing that hot and cold behavior anymore. Now, there is a transition period I want to mention in here too, just as a forewarning for certain things that are happening. And this is a great segue into the next, you know, part of our discussion, which is there is that transition period where sometimes you're like, you've done all the work, you've been able to manifest something in, you're still kind of experiencing that hot and cold behavior. And that's kind of I like to think of that as almost that tail end, that other person or that other thing conforming. So and sometimes what might even happen is a lot of times, and I've had this in my experience too, where you basically have manifested what you want in, and sometimes you'll almost see the exact opposite. Like it almost feels like something that's like the complete opposite come right into your reality. That's when you literally need to be the biggest cheerleader for yourself and refocus your mind to go, nope, I don't even care what I see right now. And this is the perfect segue. So the one thing I also wanted to talk about today is one of the things that I'm so happy to have let go of in my life for 99% of the time at this point. I never get disappointed anymore. I don't get disappointed at all. I am not let down whatsoever anymore, because I've realized, Dan, that in the process of manifesting anything, I have the absolute belief that everything is unfolding in perfect divine order in order for me to get what I want.
So you're trusting that process then. When it comes to this, you have 100% trust. How did you get that trust?
Oh man,
what was that?
That's a great question. Trust. I love this word so much. Trust. I mean, I love faith. I love belief. I love, you know, so many of these words, but trust. I think it goes back to having unshakable confidence, because when you trust yourself, you also shift that externally to trusting the process. That is literally a fundamental belief. You have to, if you can make peace with this belief, guys, I swear, I will say, I swear to
magical.
God,
it's magical.
It's magic and miraculous in your life, because when you realize that everything is working in your favor, again, going back to how are we born? We're born infinite beings. We're born with infinite possibilities in the universe. We are abundant. Abundance is our birthright. The only one who's been stopping you or me or anybody who's watching this video for years potentially is ourselves. That's it.
Right.
So when
we're the only
peace,
limitations. We are the only limitations, right?
Anymore, like I'll give a really simple example, because, and I'm going to talk from a place of pain to power in this case scenario. So I used to be someone who I have a personality where I really like things to be Actually, I would say a lot of people find comfort in sort of the knowing, right? Knowing how things are going to unfold, knowing the how, right? A curious kind of mind, inquisitive mind. Our brains are hardwired to keep us safe. So a lot of times what eradicates that safety per se is the comfort of knowing exactly how something's going to unfold.
Right.
When you can make peace, it's a beautiful process actually, now that I've come to this peace within, where I'm completely at peace being certain about the uncertainty of how it's going to unfold. And I shared this cute little saying because it's so profound when it comes to manifesting anything.
Right.
You are in charge of the what and the now. You are never in charge of the when and the how. That is where you truly have to give it up to God, give it up out to the universe, and truly believe that no matter what you see, no matter what, and I'm going to put a link up here somewhere, wherever the link's going to show, I'll put a link to how I believe God is,
working.
the process in which God helps us to manifest and how that whole process even works, where our desires and all of these things come from, and why we feel so attracted, why we feel so called and pulled towards people, things, affinities in our life. But in essence, bare bottom bones of it is you need to have that unshakable trust. And you asked me, like, how did I get that? Honestly, I think that it's like a muscle. I've grown into trusting myself over time.
That's what I was looking for. That's what I thought it was. I mean, you just become comfortable with being uncomfortable. You become comfortable with it, and you get better at it as time goes on.
You do, you really do. And I'm not going to sit here and say that there are still not times when, limiting beliefs might come up, but the frequency of them coming up has diminished so much, which is why on the other end of the spectrum, which is what this whole video is about, at the other end, the light, we'll say the light at the end of the tunnel is that I manifest so much faster now.
Right.
But I want to point this out. It's not because I'm intending for everything to happen. I'm not, again, you're not in charge of how long it's going to take, but the surest way to get your manifestation in the quickest amount of time is to make sure that you're right within, because that will basically open up the floodgates for things to actually fill that space now. Does that make sense?
Totally, 100%. And I understand exactly what you're saying. So you're not disappointed. You trust the process. You have the confidence in that process. And I think that I'm going to try to take this. I mean, you're the expert, and I'm going to try to take this a step further. In order to have that confidence, you have to respect yourself. You have to have self-esteem, and you have to have self-care. Talk about that for a little bit, because I think that kind of folds into all of what we're saying here.
Absolutely. So let's kind of peel this back into a few different things that you just mentioned. One is self-care. I think self-care is so at times underrated, and yet it is one of the surest ways to, and when we say self-care, I'm not talking about just, not surface leveling this term, but I don't want that to get confused with just like, superficial things. Self-care can look like deleting and eliminating anything toxic from your life. That can be a form of self-care.
Absolutely.
Right? So that's one thing. I think self-care, I can talk about from my experience. My kind of self-care is a very beautiful integration, and I know you're very similar, Dan. Self-care to me looks like a few different things. It looks like respecting and appreciating myself first off, and doing activities and filling my life with things that basically elevate my energy levels, that
100%
really live in my healthiest state. So things like proper nutrition and diet, getting adequate sleep, yes, doing nice things for myself, taking care of my physical body. Like maybe it's more on the, not always, but more so maybe on the feminine side, but I like, doing my makeup and taking care of my nails and my skin, and like that, that's that's definitely unisex stuff, but you know, things like that, like just taking care of myself, like treating myself the way that I feel. It's like showering myself with love. That's kind of
Right.
how I look at it,
That's
you
what I
know?
was, that's what I was looking for. That's
Yeah.
exactly what I was going for, because once you do that, you can have the confidence, you can have the self-esteem, you can have the respect, because respect, if you don't respect yourself, to me, everything falls apart at that point, right?
Well, that's just it. Like when you shower
Right.
yourself with love, when you make yourself the priority, and again, I'm not, for those out there, like I'm not blessed to be a parent yet. Hopefully one day if that's in the plans for me. But you know, obviously I know a lot of people are sometimes strapped for time, but that doesn't mean you can't
Mm-hmm.
implement, you know, bouts of I mean, you're a parent, you're married, you know, there's definitely, I think I think making use of your daily routine to implement activities and things that show yourself love could look like, you know, a workout. It could look like cooking yourself a nice meal, or maybe that's
Absolutely.
cooking yourself and your family a meal. Maybe that's, you know, going and doing something that brings your heart joy that you put off for a while, maybe a creative activity. Like there's so many ways to really just shower yourself with love throughout your day. And it doesn't have to necessarily take a lot of time. It doesn't have to take a lot of energy expansion. It's just a way for you every day to remind yourself, you know what? I'm
Right.
loved. I'm worthy. I'm enough. I matter. I am valuable. And recognize yourself. When you recognize yourself, and you're not, the other component that's so important, especially when it comes to manifesting in like healthy love in your life, is you have to prioritize yourself and your own well-being. I don't care what
Right.
anyone who's sitting there out there thinks. If you're pouring from an empty cup.
Andy, you hit the silencer. Mandy, you went on mute, Mandy.
Life,
There you go.
taking ownership of your own life, you know, like you have to become your own best life cheerleader. And
That's right.
how you treat yourself is going to become the mirror in how other people see you, how other people treat you,
Right. And how you treat others too.
and how you treat others, but you're not doing it for them. I've said
Right.
this to clients because I do health and mindset coaching, right? And I said this, I said, you know, it's one thing to use others as, sorry, whew, a little fly in here. You just want,
You got to fly. You went on
I'm
mute there for a few
right
seconds.
now.
We're just live and real. It's all good.
Oh my goodness, it's totally real life, guys. Here's the thing, like, and I've had discussions with other coaches and stuff too about this, but at the end of the day, we always need to be doing things first and foremost for ourselves. It's really a beautiful thing to want to be the best you for your family and to show up as the best version of you, but that can't be your number one motivation. It can't, because it's not sustainable. It's
Right.
not. You can't be like, for example, if you want to lose weight, it can't be first and foremost just so you can impress, I don't know, your partner or people on your social media. If that's your motivation, it's not going to last. It's not.
It never does. It's got to be for you, and you have to have that why for yourself in order for that to happen, right?
And that's it, Dan, because when you come
Right.
into, that's where the subconscious, all of the stuff kind of ties together, right? It's about prioritizing yourself, prioritizing your well-being, putting yourself on that pedestal, which a lot of times that's partly why a lot of us don't necessarily manifest what we want, because we've allowed things like either beliefs or other people to come in front of us, you know, like the beliefs to be bigger than us. You have to take your power back. You have to put yourself back on that pedestal. And I jokingly say this, but not, you know, it's not really a joke. You have to put that invisible crown on,
Mm-hmm.
whether you're, you know, like you a king or me a queen, and everyone watching is a king or queen out there. You were born a king or queen. You you have to kind of wear that invisible crown and realize how amazing and how gifted and talented and special and unique you are, and what a gift to this planet and world you are, and all the amazing things that you have to offer. But that can only stem from within yourself. That's why, again, to even get to that level of having that unshakable confidence, which all of this will help you to manifest faster, you really need to be able to address what's going on in your subconscious. Because if you're someone, now let's turn the scenario around, and I've been there too. If you're someone that's prioritizing all these beautiful self-care, things, you're having a great daily routine, but you're still finding that you're facing a lot of resistance, if you're facing a lot of blocks, if you're feeling constantly frustrated, that's when you really need to ask yourself, okay, I feel like I'm doing, and like there's a famous meme I've seen on social media. It's like, you can drink all the green juice, you can work out as much as you want, take all the workshops, you can work with all the coaches, which again, coaching can at times, and even yourself being a health practitioner, sometimes it does help to have an external entity point out what you might be, say, need work on per se, but it doesn't, at the end of the day. And that's why I even make all this free content for people to realize that you can take full control and ownership of your life right now in this moment. I love working with clients. If y'all want to work with me, amazing. But I try to make content that allows you to be self-sustaining so that you can work through everything you need to, so you don't even need a coach if you don't want to go that direction. Right? It's about being able to identify truly within what needs work on, working through that while simultaneously building up these healthy habits. So it all kind of merges together as the best version of you. And that, when you become the best version of you, that's going to allow you to literally, again, become like a master manifester.
100%. Now, where does freedom come into play with all of this?
So to me, I think I've said this before, but like, I feel so free at this point in my life. And I actually had this conversation with my mom. There is a liberation that could really happen within. I think mostly where mine has stemmed from is the moment you really truly stop giving a bleep about what others think about you and what you're doing with your life. Like, that to me is one of the most liberating, freeing moments. It really is. And it's something that you do need to learn how to let go of caring what other people think.
Oh boy, you just hit upon the whole situation right there, right? Who really cares what other people think? Because really, people can be destructive, people can be nasty, people can really be a downer. You don't need to listen. And and we teach our son this, who cares what anybody says? It doesn't really mean anything to you in your life, right?
It's so true, Dan. And the thing is too, it's like everything that we're talking about works in such beautiful synergy, because the more you, and I'm coming from a space, again, I'm sharing from my heart, and I'm happy to be very transparent with you guys. I used to be someone, when I was a lot younger, I was not as confident version 2.0 Mandy, and I really did care what people thought about me at this point in my life. And I say this very openly. I don't say, and this is the thing, I always come across as someone, I'm very sure of myself. I know what I love. I know what I want in my life. I'm accomplishing beyond my wildest dreams now. And I'm literally living a life that I absolutely love. Part of the reason why I'm able to do this is because I've been able to let go of honestly caring about society standards of what my life should look like and what I should be or who I should be. I've given, literally, I just don't, I want to say this and say it in a way that is not, there's an element of, it's a matter of not caring what people think, but I want to say that there is definitely a level of respect to them. It's not doing it just to be, and excuse my language, I'm not going to swear, but basically being, an per se a-hole. It's not about
Right.
being a B, the rest of that word for a female. It's not about like showing up in your reality, being mean. If anything, because I allow myself to be so authentic and come from such a true space now, I actually feel like I can connect more and
Right.
be more loving, be more, when I feel, and that's one of the things too, guys. I will say there's an element of freedom when you are around people who you truly feel you can be yourself with. That's one
Right.
of the most beautiful blessings, that whether we're talking romantic relationships, whether we're talking, family connections,
Right.
your friends, your colleagues, anyone you come across, the moment you feel like you can be 100% comfortable being yourself around someone, that's a next level type of intimacy. That is a next level type of
Right.
intimacy. That's real connection.
I agree with that 100%. 100%. Now, we do have a bunch of people listening to us, so I want to make sure that we say hello to everybody. And if you have any questions, don't be afraid to ask us. Okay, we're going to be on for a little bit more. So if you have any questions, don't be afraid to ask. So, Mandy, tell me
What's
about
next? What's next?
Mandy, tell me about version Mandy 1.0. Tell me a little bit about that, because you mentioned something. You had that
Oh, Mandy
transition.
2.0? Mandy 2.0?
Yeah, I want to know, what about 1.0?
Oh, the 1.0. I mean, I don't really look at my life like that, I guess. Like I feel like, again, I look at things as a process, right? Like
Mm-hmm.
it's because I think partly my mind works in the way that because I have the belief that we were born perfection,
Mm-hmm.
and we've kind of just adopted like layers of things that just need to be shed, essentially. I look at everyone already as this masterpiece, right?
Right.
So it's not really like, I don't really necessarily look at myself like, oh, there was that version of 1.0. It was okay, that it's kind of like the not as evolved, not as aware, maybe the someone who was searching and didn't necessarily have the right
Mm-hmm.
resources, or didn't have the level of awareness or knowledge at the time. And it goes back to, like, you and I have had this discussion too. And for anyone watching, like, I'm just going to say this to potentially help some of y'all watching out there. I really don't believe in failures in life. I really don't. I think
I
that
agree.
I think you're either like, and we talk about having this winning mindset, right? What is
Mm-hmm.
a winning mindset? It's looking at life and viewing life through the lens of trusting, first of all, but also knowing that things are, again, going back to that trust of everything's happening in your favor. So when things don't necessarily work out as you maybe ideally intended them to happen, I just look at it as like, okay, what can I learn from this? Like life is not happening to you, it's happening for or through you.
Mm-hmm.
Which is a very, like, those, that's a very common saying, because you have to start viewing everything like, I'm not going to say laugh at everything, but it kind of is like this moldable, malleable journey we're on.
Mm-hmm.
And when you get comfortable with knowing that you're either winning, which to me, win is just your ideal circumstances coming to fruition, or on the other end of the spectrum, but it's all serving you in some way. It's just learning to then get you to where you want to be. You know what I'm saying? So
I agree with you 100%.
yeah, and that's the thing. Like, I don't really, I guess, wouldn't look at it as like Mandy 1.0. I think that I kind of look at it as like, that was a woman who maybe just she wasn't as evolved because she was just having to unlearn more of what she learned a lot of the years.
Right, right, right. Absolutely, absolutely. So we're almost coming to an end. It always goes really quick, doesn't it?
So fast, Dan. I
It does,
know.
it does, it does go quick. So what are some of your last final parting thoughts about manifesting faster and quicker?
I think there's a level, and I think part of this stemmed from, having a birthday recently as well,
Mm-hmm.
which I'm always reminded around my birthday. I kind of do like the whole life analysis. And I think there's an element of being fearless that's a really big theme in my life. And facing things that I, it's getting my mind, it's almost like this give and take of letting go of what I'm maybe familiar with or used to, or, the old kind of way that I would go about things, and really just being open and adopting this level of fearlessness in every area. And that fearlessness, and when I say fearless, what I'm really just meaning is like allowing myself to fully trust, believe, have faith, be open. And that's where the freedom exists. Honestly, what do I think freedom really means? It's being fearless.
Yeah.
It's being fearless to the unknown. Actually going, you know what? I don't know how this is going to happen, but I truly believe that where there's a will, there's a way. And I don't have to take action. If I can believe it to be true and it exists in here, there is a way that it can manifest. So I'm going to get out of my own leaping way and allow that process to happen for me and through me. But it's
Absolutely.
that level of fearlessness.
All right, now we have a question here, Mandy.
Okay.
All right. Andrea asks, what do you think impacts someone's confidence the most? Oh, good question. What do you think?
Ooh.
What do you think
I'm going to
impacts?
go back. I'm going to say probably from all my experience coaching and also for myself. I think, again, it's those things that happen to us early in life that kind of take us off of, because I think we're born whole, complete, perfect. I think you're born a confident person, and I always give the example of the little boy or girl who truly believes that they're Superman or Wonder Woman, and nothing will convince them otherwise.
Right.
So I think that what tends to happen is something that we perceive as making us feel less than or insecure happens at a young age. And unless we address that initial trauma that happened to us, without, again, going into victim mode or identifying as someone who needs healing. And I say this with complete compassion. I just want to say that too. I think what matters is figuring out what your insecurity is, your biggest insecurities, and addressing them like head on. And whatever those things happen to be, whether it's, I don't know, maybe it's your body, maybe it's your thinking, maybe it's like whatever things that are you're most triggered by tend to be the things that are the most unhealed or need attention. And basically identifying them and then essentially doing whatever you can to do the opposite. So for example, say when you were younger, something happened where you became really self-conscious about the way you look. So I would just, with a coaching client, I'd go far more in depth with this, but let's say you can identify that you have a self-image limitation, right? Or a limiting belief about the way you look. I would do everything in my power to address fully being aware of that, coming to terms and just make peace with that, and then do whatever you can to build up a healthy self-belief. What does that look like? Well, it's going to be a mixture of not focusing on what you don't like about yourself. That's a big part. So stop focusing on what you don't like about the way you look. Start focusing on the fact that telling yourself things like, I am beautiful. I am, A, B, and C, things that you ideally want to look like per se. And then also implementing and adopting a daily routine that supports
those
and who you ideally would like to quote unquote look or become, right? Look like or become. So what does that look like? I mean, I'd say some of the basic kind of things that you could start with: hydrating enough, getting enough sleep, exercising.
Sleep is very important. Yes.
Eating a really healthy, nourishing diet that allows you to radiate and glow and feel your best. Because chances are, if you start marrying the beliefs with the daily habits, that in itself is naturally, you can call it manifesting, but I mean, that all together is going to end up becoming that ideal version of yourself you want to see.
Absolutely.
And you're going to feel better too. You're going to feel so much better when you take care of yourself, your body, your mind, when you take care of your soul.
It's all good.
Exactly.
Okay. All right. we're up with our time today. Today was another great conversations. Tell me, how can individuals find you, Mandy?
Thank you, Dan. I am going to start with my website, which is www.mandyjross.com, because that has everything on it. On social media, pretty much across the board, I'm at Mandy J. Ross. I also have at Move with Mandy J.
Mm-hmm.
And any information about my services or anything to do with anything really that I have going on, because there's a lot of hats that I wear, no pun intended.
Always.
Anything can be found basically on social media or my website.
Awesome. And I'm Dr. Dan. You can find me at Daniel Cardalicchio and just about every other social media. So you can find me there. We recommend Mandy. We recommend her 100%. So Mandy, thank you very much for a great conversation today. And
so much love, Dan. In this new birth year, I can't wait for all of our amazing conversations. And I just want to say, if you're watching out there, if there's any way Dan and I can support you, you know, we are very...
Let us know.
Let us know, because I feel like both he and I, our energy, like we're such life cheerleaders. And the reason why we even do these segments, whether it's on YouTube or social media, is to really equip you guys with the proper mindset and the right tools to help you achieve anything you want, because honestly, guys, you deserve the best. You're the best. You deserve the best.
And don't be afraid to ask questions, and don't be afraid to say, hey, listen, I'd like to know more about this topic. We'll take a look at it and we'll discuss it in part, right? So that's all.
Comment below too. Definitely comment below. I love reading your feedback. We love connecting with y'all.
Even if you're listening to this after the live, make a comment and we'll make sure we get back to you. So thank you very much, Mandy. I appreciate you for coming on. Thank you, everybody, for listening. Live your best life, and we'll see you in about a month. Take care now.
And as I always say, I'm wishing y'all, and Dan and I are both wishing y'all, a blessed and beautiful day.
All the time. Take care, everybody.